Hello, my name is Oscar Rodriguez. I'm going to teach you today the basic components of music. Especially if you want to learn how to read music and all that kind of stuff, I suggest you follow these videos. I'm going to be as thorough as possible and I hope you enjoy it. So let's get started. Today we're going to learn the basic components of music. So before you even start reading music, you got to know what makes up the material of reading music. When people speak to each other, they communicate by using words, right? And these words are sounds. So we use sounds that we call words. Okay, that's not a mystery. We all know about that. Words are sounds that we can write down using symbols called letters. Our Western alphabet is phonetic, so every letter has its own sound. We don't have like Chinese and Japanese. They have kanji, which each symbol represents has its own meaning. So it's pretty simple and it's very similar to music because in music every note has a tone. When we play music, we also communicate with sounds, but not words. When we play music, we communicate with musical sounds, not words. So music has content to it, right? Music has meaning. We cannot necessarily articulate that into words because then music might not be necessary after that. And that's what makes music beautiful. Everybody can have their own interpretation of the same thing. Musical sounds can be written too. Instead of letters, we use musical notes, and we use those musical notes on a pentagram and all that kind of stuff. But we're going to get into it in just a moment. One thing about sound, the reason why we need to write sound down is because it can be high or low. And we use the word pitch to describe the degree to which it is high or it is low. Another word for the sound can be tone as well. So I have it here on the banner. So you can see I use both words. So a little checking for understanding. What do we use in order to write down musical sounds? Yep, that's right. Musical notes. And what does the word pitch mean? Well, what's it used for? To talk about the degree of highness or lowness of a tone, right? So, in order to write music, we need three components: a staff, a clef, and musical notes. Now, you've probably seen all of these components somewhere, sometime, and this is your chance to actually finally get to understand them. The first thing we need is a staff, the five parallel lines that with the clef show the pitch of musical notes. It's also known as a pentagram, penta meaning five, and gram like a diagram. So it has five lines, pentagram. But just call it staff, it's much easier. The second thing that we need is a clef. And a clef is usually placed all the way at the left at the beginning of a staff, and it determines the pitch of the note. So, how high the note is or how low it's going to be, and your starting point. Now, here I show you four possible clefs. The treble and the bass clef are super common. You'll find them in most music. The alto and tenor, not so much. They're on a C clef, which moves around. So, but there can be more than four because of the way ancient people, moved around the F or moved around the C clef. But generally speaking, this is what you're going to find: treble bass, bass clef, and then some version of the C clef. The third component is musical notes, symbols representing a sound with pitch and rhythm. Now, this is important. They don't just represent pitch because each note has its own length of duration. So, how long the sound is going to prolong itself is embedded into the note in itself. And so, placing the note in a higher or lower on the staff is also going to tell you whether you're going higher in pitch or lower in pitch. Simple as that. So, what are the three components needed to write down music? Tick tock, tick tock. That's correct. Yes. A staff, a clef, and musical notes. What is a staff? Do you remember that? The other name is pentagram. So, staff, five parallel lines that with the clef show the pitch of musical notes. The staff in itself is just dead silence. There's nothing that determines anything until you place a clef on it. And what is a clef? What does it do? Well, a clef is a sign placed at the beginning of a musical staff that determines the pitch of the notes. Okay, very nice. What are musical notes? Hmm. Again, yeah, musical notes are symbols representing sounds or tones with pitch and rhythm. So the pitch is determined by how high or low it is on the staff, and the rhythm is determined by the value that the note in itself is giving. So if it's an empty note, that's a half note, right? If it has a stem, so that's going to last 2 beats, for example. It's going to be a little longer than one that is filled in and has a stem and it's only 1 beat. So, for example, mixing them together creates rhythm, by the way. But you'll know more about that in later videos. So, before writing the notes on our staff, we need to know if the sound is going to be high or low pitched, right? The clef tells us that. As I said, there are 4 clefs, but today we're going to learn about the treble clef, the most common of all clefs. Now, why is it the most common? Well, a lot of melodies are melodies that people can sing. Human range is within the treble clef usually. Um, Rarely does it go into the bass clef on a regular voice, but you might find somebody that does have a very low pitched voice. So for now, let's focus on the treble clef. So in order to write the middle to high pitched sounds, so this is going from middle C all the way up until the keyboard ends if you're on a piano. We use this squiggly symbol called the treble clef, also known as a G clef, because it is the letter G. It literally is a letter G. It's a cursive G, and back when it was invented, I guess that's how the G's were being written out. Now, when you place a treble clef on the staff, it means we will be writing middle to high pitch range sounds. Let's ask some questions. What does a clef do on a musical staff? Yeah, it tells the pitch range of a sound or determines the pitch range of the sound. How many clefs are there? There are at least 4 types of clefs, or at least 4 types that we saw today. And why is the treble clef also known as a G clef? Tick tock, tick tock. Yes, because it's literally the letter G written in cursive. When you use a treble clef, what is the pitch range? Yes, middle to high pitch range. So going from middle C all the way up until the end of the staff. So let's learn how to draw a treble clef. Now, the other thing I wanted to say about the treble clef, also known as the G clef, is that it actually sits on the second line, which is a G. And you're going to see that in just a moment. So, step 1. You can number the lines from top to bottom if you have a staff, draw them, or just mentally envision that you have 5 numbers, one for each line. So this way you can follow along. Now, between lines 2 and 3, you're going to draw a tiny curve that then you're going to prolong from line 3 to line 1, like a little spiral going down. And as you notice, it's wrapping around the second line, which is the G line. That's why also this is called the G clef. All right. The line around where it wraps, it's going to be the G note. So continue your spiral until you get to the 4th line, or just about, and then bring it up to the 5th line or beyond if you want to be fancy. Curl it around and bring it back down to line 4. Then what you're going to do is you're going to bring it all the way down, and you're going to curl off the end or check it off. I like to curl it. So that's how you draw a treble clef. That's the first thing. And of course, you have to have a staff. So if you get a staff notebook, that's a good way to have it. Or you can draw 5 lines using a ruler. Or if you want to practice drawing your treble clef, you can have sheets of paper with lines already on them and just trace the lines, 5 of the lines. It's going to be a little big, or you can divide those lines and trace still, make it a little smaller, but play around with that. Your handwritten treble clef is going to get better with time. Like anything, it's just a matter of practice. And with that said, practice. Go ahead and draw 10 treble clefs or more on your music staff. But remember, these only are to be written on the left side of the staff if you're going to write music. That's it for now. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video.